Why does a billionaire, someone who already possesses enough capital to comfortably fund their family for the next, 10 generations, why do they still wake up at 4 in the morning to work an 80-hour week?
Right, and often trying to acquire a company they don't even want to run.
Exactly. It makes zero sense on paper. But welcome to another deep dive. Today we are unpacking one of the most stubborn puzzles in human psychology.
It really is a puzzle.
Yeah, and we have this fascinating stack of research for you today. It blends neuroscience, evolutionary biology, and ancient philosophy, and we are pointing all of it at the concept of enough.
Which is a very loaded word.
Oh, absolutely. And we aren't just talking about money today. Our mission here is to explore the very mechanics of human satisfaction. We're looking at why the ultimate finish line seems to be on wheels, just, rolling further away every time you sprint toward it.
Yeah, to really understand this paradox, we have to look past the bank accounts, past the luxury real estate, and peer directly into the mechanics of our own brain chemistry.
Which where it gets kind of scary.
A little bit, yeah. Because the endless pursuit of wealth isn't just some economic phenomenon. It is a biological and neurological loop, and most of us don't even realize we are trapped in it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think most of us listening are probably familiar with the baseline idea of getting used to our stuff, right?
Right, the classic hedonic treadmill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The shiny new toy loses its appeal after a few weeks. But what the neuro data in today's stack shows is, well, it shows exactly how violently the brain punishes us when we achieve our goals and the actual biological mechanism behind it.
Yeah, it's not just a feeling. It's physiological.
Right. So let's look at what actually happens in the reward system the moment you get exactly what you want.
So the immediate mechanism is a massive surge in dopamine. But we often misunderstand what dopamine actually does.
Pop culture kind of treats it like a happiness chemical, doesn't it?
Exactly. But neurologically, it is a molecule of anticipation. It's about motivation and reward seeking.
Okay, so it's the drive, not the destination.
Spot on. When you secure that massive promotion you've been working years for, or you finally close on a new home, dopamine just floods the synapses.
And you feel amazing.
You do. For a brief window, life feels absolutely extraordinary. But here's the catch. The human brain is highly efficient, and it's incredibly sensitive to overstimulation.
Meaning it can't handle that much excitement forever?
Right. It simply cannot sustain that peak level of chemical arousal without actually damaging itself.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a psychological shift where you suddenly get bored of your new house. There is a physical change happening in the brain.
Yes, exactly.
So how exactly does the brain turn down the volume on that pleasure?
Through a process called receptor downregulation.
Receptor downregulation. Okay, what does that look like?
Well, when your brain is repeatedly flooded with high levels of dopamine from a major achievement, it attempts to restore equilibrium homeostasis, basically.
So it's trying to balance the scales.
Precisely. To protect itself from this constant chemical flood, the brain literally retracts or shuts down some of its dopamine receptors. It builds a tolerance.
Wait, it physically removes the receptors.
It does. So the next time you experience that same level of success, there are fewer receptors available to catch the dopamine.
Wow.
The thrill is completely muted. What once felt like a dream very quickly becomes the new baseline normal.
That makes perfect sense. It's kind of like, well, think about your eyes adjusting to a dark room.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like when you first walk in from the bright sunlight, you literally can't see anything because your pupils are constricted.
Yeah, you're just stumbling around.
Exactly. But give it a few minutes and your pupils physically dilate. They change their size to normalize the new environment. So your brain is doing the exact same thing with success, right?
Yes. It physically downregulates your receptors to normalize your new wealth or status. That is honestly a much more accurate visualization than the standard treadmill metaphor.
Because the treadmill implies you're just walking, but your brain is actually changing its structure.
Exactly. Your neurological baseline shifts. It's like trying to reach the horizon.
Oh, man.
Right. No matter how far you travel, the horizon always remains just beyond reach. And once those receptors are downregulated, your brain makes a demand.
It demands more.
Yes. It requires a significantly larger dose of achievement just to trigger the exact same baseline feeling of satisfaction you felt last time.
So it literally forces you to chase another promotion, a larger home, a faster car, just to avoid feeling empty.
That's the loop. You have to keep feeding it.
Okay, I want to push back on the underlying assumption here, though, just for a second.
Sure, go for it.
If we look at evolutionary biology, isn't this constant dissatisfaction exactly what got us out of caves and onto the moon?
Oh, absolutely.
Because if early humans were easily contented with just a single meal, they wouldn't have stored food for the winter. They wouldn't have migrated or innovated.
They just sit there.
Right. So ambition and this biological drive for more, it can't be inherently toxic, can it?
No, you are hitting on the exact evolutionary purpose of this mechanism.
Well,
Evolution absolutely selected for a mild, persistent dissatisfaction.
because the satisfied ones didn't make it.
Exactly. The early humans who were perfectly content sitting under a tree after eating one piece of fruit were the ones who starved when winter came. The survivors were the ones whose brains constantly whispered, "You need more to be safe."
They need more. Yeah.
So the drive to secure resources is deeply embedded in our DNA. But, and this is where today's sources get really interesting, the research introduces a crucial framework here called the blank slate theory.
Okay, blank slate theory.
Right. And this applies specifically when it comes to the scale of our modern desires.
Meaning we were wired to want food and shelter, but maybe not like a private jet.
Precisely. What's fascinating here is that the biological hardware drives us to seek security and progress, but the specific, insatiable hunger for massive, endless wealth, the desire for $1 billion, is software.
It's learned.
Yes, it is learned. We are not born needing massive excess to feel adequate. That specific hunger is installed by an environment that strictly equates personal worth with material accumulation.
So society is basically hijacking our survival instincts.
Exactly. The blank slate theory argues that society takes our natural evolutionary drive for survival and artificially attaches it to infinite financial metrics.
Okay, let's test that blank slate idea with a specific scenario from the research, because I think this perfectly highlights the breaking point between biological need and learned behavior.
The 50 cars example.
Yes, the 50 cars. Because owning one beautiful, reliable car serves a very real practical need, right?
Absolutely.
It provides comfort, it gets you to work, it keeps your family safe on the highway. There's real utility there.
Real survival and security value.
But a massive garage with 50 luxury cars, unless you are running some kind of high-end taxi fleet, the utility is entirely gone.
Right, it's completely gone.
You cannot physically drive 50 cars at once. Transportation is clearly no longer the purpose of the object.
No. And when utility vanishes, we have to analyze the symbolism.
The symbolism of the cars.
Yes. In evolutionary biology, there is a concept called costly signaling.
Oh, like the peacock.
Exactly. Think of a peacock's massive, colorful tail.
Right, because it doesn't help the peacock fly.
It actually makes it harder. It makes it easier for predators to catch them. But it signals to the environment, I am so genetically robust that I can afford to carry around this massive, impractical weight.
Look at how much I can waste and still survive.
Exactly. And the 50 cars function exactly like the peacock's tail. The collection is a message broadcast to the world saying, look at the sheer volume of resources I can afford to waste.
Wow. So the dopamine system gets completely hijacked by social cues. The person isn't buying the metal and rubber of the 50 cars. They are buying the meaning that society has attached to those cars.
Precisely. They're purchasing recognition, status, admiration, and a perceived insulation from judgment.
They're buying a shield.
Right. When the environment we grew up in teaches us that a massive garage makes you a more valuable human being, our dopamine receptors latch on to that social elevation.
So we stop living for our own comfort.
We stop living for our own utility. Yeah. And we begin living entirely for the opinions of others. We literally offshore our sense of self-worth to the public gallery.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Once our possessions become a language, a way that we communicate our status to the people around us, we aren't just trying to be comfortable anymore.
No, the game changes entirely.
We start playing a highly dangerous, completely unwinnable game of comparison because, and I want to be clear, human achievement absolutely deserves celebration.
Of course, success and innovation are wonderful things.
Right. But happiness becomes so shatter at the slightest touch, fragile when it depends on being above someone else.
Because comparison has no biological upper limit.
There's always a bigger fish.
Always. There will always be a bigger company. There will always be a larger house, a more influential social circle, or a faster jet.
And if your brain is tied to that,
when your neurological reward system is tethered to relative status rather than absolute utility, you are guaranteeing your own misery.
To you listening right now, I want you to really think about your own life for a second. If your happiness requires someone else to have less than you, Can your mind ever truly rest?
It can't.
If you only feel successful when you look down and see people beneath you on the ladder, what happens when you inevitably have to look up?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, thousands of years before we could map dopamine pathways in an fMRI machine, ancient Greek philosophers had already diagnosed this exact behavioral loop.
They already knew.
They did. They had a specific term for this endless comparison trap, pleonexia.
Pleonexia.
Yes, it translates roughly to the insatiable desire for more, the greedy grasping for a larger share than one deserves. But what is critical here is how they categorized it.
How so?
Well, the Greeks didn't view pleonexia as just a quirky personality flaw or a byproduct of ambition or even a bad habit. They classified it as a literal sickness of the soul.
A sickness of the soul, man, that is heavy.
It is.
That implies that this endless chasing doesn't just, exhaust your bank account or your schedule. It fundamentally corrupts your core self. It destroys your baseline functionality.
It destroys your autonomy. And the philosophical suspicion of the Greeks aligns perfectly with modern neurobiology.
Because of the dopamine receptors.
Exactly. The mechanism for hyper-success and the mechanism for addiction are shockingly similar.
Wait, really? Addiction?
Yes. A brain that is stuck constantly adapting, constantly down-regulating its receptors, constantly demanding more status just to feel normal, that brain is not free.
It's a prisoner.
It is literally addicted to its own wanting. The desire itself becomes the addiction, regardless of the actual object being desired.
Okay, that is the aha moment right there. That perfectly explains the billionaire we talked about in the intro.
The one working 80 hours a week.
Yes. The one who already has infinite resources, yet still works all those hours to execute a hostile takeover of a company they don't even care about.
Right, because they aren't addicted to the company.
The company is completely irrelevant. They're addicted to the neurological high of the acquisition. The wanting is the drug. The pursuit is the substance they are abusing.
And because they are using a material tool, money, equity, cars, to try and solve what is essentially a psychological and neurochemical deficit, the math will never work.
You can't buy your way out of it.
You cannot solve an internal receptor deficit with external currency.
So if endless accumulation is quite literally a sickness of the soul, backed up by modern brain scans showing addiction to wanting, how do we cure it?
That is the big question.
Right, because we can't surgically remove our dopamine systems, and as we discussed, we kind of need ambition to survive. So how do we redefine success so that we don't end up rich in possessions, but biologically and psychologically miserable?
The synthesis of these sources proposes a profound paradigm shift. It requires completely redefining our metric for wealth.
Okay, how do we redefine it?
What if the ultimate form of wealth is measured not by endless accumulation, but by the capacity for contentment?
I want to jump in here and make a crucial distinction because I do not want you, the listener, to misunderstand this point as a mandate to just give up.
Right. It's not about giving up.
Contentment does not mean apathy. We aren't saying you should abandon your ambition, reject innovation, or refuse to improve the material conditions of your family.
Not at all.
Money is an incredibly powerful, deeply necessary tool. It funds medical research, it builds infrastructure, it buys time and security. The goal isn't to take a vow of poverty.
Exactly.
The argument here is that contentment means reaching a point where your achievement serves your life instead of your life becoming a servant to endless achievement.
That is the vital pivot right there.
Yeah.
Achievement must be the tool, not the master.
Yes.
True prosperity, according to this framework, begins the exact day we stop asking the environment, how much more can I own? And start asking ourselves, how much more can I understand?
How much more can I understand? Wow, that shifts the hunger entirely.
It does.
You move from seeking external validation, which is entirely out of your control and subject to endless comparison, to internal growth, which you control completely.
And this raises an important question because this shift has implications far beyond just the individual level. There is a very chilling civilizational warning buried in this research.
A civilizational warning?
Yes. When you look at historical models, a civilization that endlessly accumulates material possessions but structurally fails to cultivate contentment, well, it grows incredibly rich in material wealth, but rapidly poorer in wisdom.
And wisdom is what sustains it.
Exactly. Historically, no society remains prosperous for long if its wisdom declines while its wealth skyrockets. When a society is driven entirely by the neurochemistry of addiction rather than a foundation of purpose, it begins to consume itself.
So what does this all mean for us on a practical level?
Well,
If we synthesize the core message from everything we've explored today, from the downregulation of dopamine receptors to the Greek concept of plenexia, the goal isn't to force yourself to miraculously stop wanting things.
right, because we are biological creatures, we will always desire.
Exactly. The real work is figuring out what you actually hungry for. Because if you are deeply hungry for a sense of meaning, for a lasting legacy, or for genuine human connection, you have to realize something.
That money won't fix it.
Right. No amount of green paper, no matter how high you stack it, will ever satiate that specific hunger. You cannot satisfy a starvation for meaning by force-feeding it 50 luxury cars.
You are attempting to tighten a screw with a hammer.
Yeah.
It is simply the wrong tool for the job. And the harder you hit it, the more damage you do to the foundation.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to invite you to take a step back and examine your own metrics for enough.
Good exercise.
Think back over the last few years. When was the last time you felt genuinely, deeply satisfied? Not the fleeting dopamine spike of acquiring a new shiny object, and not the hollow ego boost of realizing you had more than your neighbor.
But true satisfaction.
Yes, a moment where you simply stopped comparing yourself to the rest of the world and felt completely present in your own life.
It is an uncomfortably rare feeling for many of us in the modern world.
It really is.
And the research leaves us with a striking, almost haunting question to carry forward. If the most powerful, resourced, and richest people in human history still found themselves desperately wanting more, what makes you think your next promotion or your next purchase will finally be the one that satisfies you?
That is the ultimate trap of the hedonic treadmill right there. The belief that just one more will finally be enough.
It never is.
But I want to leave you with a brand new thought to mull over, building directly on that blank slate theory we discussed earlier.
Okay, what's that?
If our current environment, our media, our economic structures, our cultural signaling, has so successfully trained our biological dopamine systems to reward endless material accumulation, what would happen if we actively chose to change the environment?
Oh, wow. Could a society intentionally rewire its collective brain chemistry?
Yes, imagine a world where hitting a baseline of enough triggered the ultimate dopamine rush of freedom and time wealth, rather than the anxiety of missing out.
That's a beautiful concept.
What if crossing the finish line actually felt like winning, instead of just the terrifying start of another race?
Now that is something to think about.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep questioning your own why, and we will catch you next time.